Hello and welcome back to Tales of Lumin. Today we are talking about Overwatch and my time with it at BlizzCon 2014. I absolutely can't wait to talk a whole lot about this game. I had such a good time playing it, and let me just tell you, it's one of my most anticipated games of the next 10 years. Just because of what it is. Just because of the fact that I've been waiting for a first-person shooter to sink some time into, but I'll get back to that in just a second. First, before I even start talking about the game and the time that I spent playing it, I want to show you this. This is my Tracer t-shirt. I'm wearing it now and I'm feeling super special. I realize that thousands of other people have the very same t-shirt. Maybe even hundreds of thousands of other people. But still, when I wear it, I feel like I can take on the world. I also kind of feel like playing Overwatch. Anyway, in this video, I want to talk about my time playing the game at BlizzCon, and not so much about the facts, about the stuff that most people already know. I want to just talk about my experiences. Playing it, watching people play it, talking to people that did play it, and also just discussing a lot of it with the devs, because they were just littered all over the place at BlizzCon. The Overwatch team, they were just out there in full force at BlizzCon 2014 on both days, more so on the second day actually, but they were all over the place, you know, at the PCs that you could play it on, down on the showroom floor, and upstairs in the press room. In the press room there were always at least 2 devs, and that was really, really cool. Getting the one-on-one time with the guys that made the game, that's right there in front of you. It's crazy. So, let's start at the beginning. I played for a good couple of hours. I played somehow only 2 of the maps, but I did obviously see a whole lot of the other one. I'll tell you which one I didn't play in just a second. And I played with most of the heroes. I think that the only 2 heroes I didn't play were Symmetra and Reinhard. And I feel bad for not playing Reinhard, just because he seemed to have such a unique playstyle, but it just never made sense to me. I don't know, and that's the funny thing. Because the game is set up the way it is, it always makes sense to just play the hero you want to play. But I still need to, like, pound that into my noggin. Need to get that way of thinking up in there. So I've got the Overwatch website open here so that I can just make sure I remember all the names. Oh, you know what? I also didn't play Zenyatta, the robot monk. It's kind of weird, right? Really weird. It's really out there. But I love the fact that they've got such crazy characters in the game. Or wait, as Chris Metzen would say, such kooky characters. He used that word a lot. He used that word a lot. So I watched all the panels. Need to put that out there. I attended a press Q&A of the game. That was happening at the same time as the first major Overwatch panel. So it was a little weird, or not the same time, but just after, because it was the same people. So they did the panel, then we did the Q&A. Was kind of cool, and I'm going to be uploading most of that Q&A to the channel sometime after this. I say most because there were some interruptions that I'm probably going to just cut out, but you guys should see that soon enough, and there's some really interesting stuff in there. Now, however, back to actually talking about the game. So the demo that they let you play, when you sit down in front of the PC, firstly, the PCs are really good. They super fast. I asked someone about the specs. I think they are pretty much on par with what I've got here. They are beastly. I mean, they don't have Titans. I think they've got 780s in or something like that, but they're really, really powerful PCs. And it doesn't even seem like you need such a intensely fast machine to play the game, because it looks like it would run on lower end PCs as well. But they were nicely set up. They let us play on SteelSeries Apex keyboards, I think, and then they gave us the new SteelSeries Rival or Sensei mice. I'm not even sure what it was, but I'm also not sure if that was on all the PCs, like down on the show floor as well. Those were the ones up in the press room, and they were really great. Like, they were comfortable. The one thing I kind of didn't like was I didn't have enough mouse room. I've got this huge SteelSeries mouse pad here that takes up a big portion of my desk, and I like playing on super low sensitivity, so it was a bit of an issue for me because it was a bit cramped, but at the end of the day, it did not detract from the fun. So when you sit down, then you are greeted with a login screen. You get to just type your name in, and then you sort of log into the match. And the PCs are all set up so that you have 6 in a row here, and then the 6 on the opposite side, they're playing against you. So in the press room, we had just those 12 PCs. We had the one line against the other line, and it was always full, always packed. You had to stand in a queue in the press room as well. We didn't just get to sit down and play and play and play. I guess later in the evening, the queue was shorter and you got to play multiple matches in a row. But what happened was you sat down, you played a game, and the games, they were quick. And I'm going to talk about this quite a bit in the video and going forward as well. But I kind of liken it to Heroes of the Storm in many, many, many ways. The way Overwatch works. I'll touch on why I think so just in a moment or two, but the game lengths are also sort of similar in that they can vary a lot, but they're never that long. Okay, so you think you're looking at like 10 to 20 minutes maybe for a match, and that's great. That's a good amount of time. I guess it could potentially go on a little longer, but for the most part that's what you're looking at, or it could go by a little quicker if you got like some serious domination going on. It could, it definitely could. But when you sit down, you type your nickname in, then there's a little grace period before the match starts where you get to just look at the heroes, pick what you want, and then you hang around in this little room before the match starts with all your teammates. That's obviously always fun. Jumping around, trying to find little secrets and Easter eggs in there, which there are. The maps are so detailed that there's always something that you can find. I saw that there was a horde symbol on the Temple of Anubis map in some of the hieroglyphics. It was very weird seeing the horde symbol there. But there's a lot of stuff. Okay, just keep your eyes open. So you sit in that room there till everyone's picked their characters, and then it counts down. It plays out in much the same way as Team Fortress, and the styles that they've chosen to go for the first 3 maps that they revealed are also quite a lot like Team Fortress. There's Capture the Point, and then 2 of the maps have that. Then the one is Payload. So it's just those 2 gameplay styles, and there's going to be more. They said straight up there will definitely be more. These are just the ones that they're giving to players because they're kind of familiar. So you don't want to go with something too exotic as your flagship map because that might put people off. So I was happy that they went with something that was familiar to people. And when you start playing, the game just feels familiar. It does in many ways. And I don't mean just because of how it plays. Not just because of that, but because of the art style, the way the heroes are set up, the design choices they made. It all just felt familiar, and it felt like, I don't know, the perfect first-person shooter experience to me. And I know I've only played for a couple of hours, but I'm already saying that. That's how much I liked playing Overwatch. And I can tell you right now that based on what I've seen, based on what I've played, this is going to be the game for me going forward. I have always had trouble sticking with one first-person shooter after Quake 3 Arena fell off. So I spent a lot of time. An inhuman amount of time. And I say that knowing that it's probably not even possible because I am a human. But I spent a lot of time playing Quake 3 Arena when I was a little younger. I guess I would say that I was on the verge of being a professional Quake 3 player. I was really good. Okay? Aim of the gods, crazy good movement, all of that stuff. I'm not that good anymore. I'm not that great. I still have a deep understanding of how it works, of how you should control the map and all that. I have a very extensive background in first-person shooters. And after Quake 3 Arena just kind of died out and Quake Live became, then I just didn't really know what to do. I couldn't find my place because Quake Live didn't feel the same to me. Just didn't. It felt flimsy. It felt like it had something off with it, and I couldn't play that. I tried Counter-Strike Global Offensive for a while. I played a lot of 1.6. A lot of 1.6. And the Counter-Strikes that came before that as well. I just did. I had a lot of friends that were into the first-person shooters, so obviously at that age I needed to be good at them. I needed to be better than my friends, so I practiced a lot. And I also played quite a bit of Team Fortress, a couple of 100 hours probably across all the different characters in it. And you know, in between, there's also all the other games that rise and fall, the Call of Duties and all that, and none of them have been able to stick. I've not been able to play them consistently over the years, and I can tell you now, Overwatch will be that game for me, and I just can't wait. I can't. Just like Heroes of the Storm is now my go-to MOBA, World of Warcraft is now my go-to MMO, Hearthstone, well, I didn't even need a go-to card game, but now it is. It's just my go-to game. Leaving the genre out of it. If I wanted to play a real-time strategy game that was slightly more competitive, I'd go to StarCraft. Action RPG, Diablo 3. Somehow Blizzard have already made something, and it's so early in production that I can't live without. Now, back to actually playing it. I've been talking for so long, it's crazy, okay? I've got so much to say about it, but back to actually playing it. The game just felt good. When I started playing, it felt like a homecoming for me, and the keys and stuff that they set up, they work naturally. You're using WASD, and you can't rebind these yet. They didn't want to give us access to the menus for obvious reasons, so you couldn't change the graphics, you couldn't change anything but the sensitivity, and that's one little niggle I had. Like, I would have liked to have changed the FOV, and I did speak to the devs about that, and they said there is absolutely no way that you won't be able to change the FOV. There you go. Obviously, you'll have FOV options. It might not be too extreme, like you might not be able to go 110 like you would in Quake, but there'll be enough for most people. I think if they let you go up to, say, 100 FOV, down to maybe 65, 70, everyone will be happy. But there will be FOV, and in the demo that we played, you could only really choose the sensitivity that you wanted. I set mine about that little bit away from the lowest. I had it really, really low, and it felt good. Okay, they didn't have any weird mouse acceleration going that they shouldn't have had. The mouse smoothing was one thing that I would have liked to have taken off, but, you know, that's something that I'm sure you'll be able to do and customize in the final product, or at least when we get access to it. But once you pick your heroes and stuff, the game starts. You don't get to choose the map or anything like that. And the great thing is that after every death, you get to change your hero whenever you want. But you do lose the build-up of your ultimate ability. So how it works is that you've got Shift, Q, and E, if I'm not mistaken, as your ability keys. So say for instance Tracer, that's the hero that I played a lot, Tracer. I have on Shift the little blink ability, and that was just so much fun to use. So you can blink, 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 blink. And on E, you have the little recall thing. Okay, so that's also something that you got. And then on Q, you got your ulti, which tosses this little sticky grenade onto someone and then it explodes on them. Very, very cool. Like, so nice. So much fun to use. And then the keys, they just made sense. Okay, so it works how they're set up. It obviously will be rebindable. You'll be able to change it and put on whatever you want. But the way they were set up, it made sense. And as someone that's played a lot, I'm opening the Tracer page here. I just wanted to see what kind of details they give you about them. But as someone that plays a lot of FPS games, or has played a lot of them in the past, it felt good right away. The only thing, like I said, was just the FOV that I would have liked to have changed. And immediately, a few things I noticed were different from other first-person shooters, I guess, of this type. One, kills don't matter quite as much. I played the very first game that I played purely going for the throats. I just went for the kills immediately. I was doing really well in that sense. I was on like an 8 or 9 kill streak, and that gave me some decent score. But my teammates, who were actually focusing on the objectives and playing like in a team as a group, they were doing so much better. They were just destroying me in terms of score. So it works with score, where you get certain amount of points for doing certain things, and it's apparent from when you start that it just makes more sense focusing on that. It does. So you don't need to go for the kills. It helps. It does help if 1 or 2 people on your team can just pick the enemies off. And there are certain heroes that do that better. Like, say, for instance, WIDOWMAKER, the sniper. Quite good at controlling zones and picking opponents off and keeping the area clear for the other classes. Okay, so that's the kind of hero that would be really good at that kind of thing. But it's definitely the kind of game, and that's why I said I'd liken it to Heroes of the Storm, that rewards playing as a team and doing the objectives much more so than doing your own thing, trying to be the hero, and just going for the kills. And I like that. I really like that, because that'll form bonds. That means that you and your team will have to actually work together. You'll have to actually pay attention to the objectives instead of just going around trying to, you know, score as many frags as you can. And the team that does that better than the other team, the team that works together better than the other team, will always have the upper hand. It was weird. It was strange that they managed to make it so much like Heroes in that way, and it's good. It's a really good thing, because in Heroes of the Storm, for those that don't know, you need to focus on the objective of the map. Say, for instance, the map of Dragonshire. If you just play and try and push the lanes like you would in Dota 2 or League of Legends or whatever, or you go and creep in the bushes, you jungle or whatever they call it, then your opponent will freely be able to control the 2 shrines on the map. Then they'll be able to get control of the shrine in the middle, the dragon shrine, and they'll be able to take control of this dragon knight, push your middle lane much faster than you would have pushed otherwise in the bottom by just pushing it with your hero, or letting the creeps naturally push down there and just helping them. And because of that, because they go for the objectives, they'll be able to finish the game much quicker. They'll be at a point of advantage the whole time, and Overwatch feels the same way. You know, you have to go and try and control the point. If it's the payload map, you need to try and focus on either pushing that cart forward or trying to stop your opponents from doing it. And when I started playing, that was something that was a little bit difficult for me to get the hang of, and it took me a game or two to get that into my brain, to work with that kind of thinking instead. But once I did, it was so much fun. It was just so much fun. Now, the maps that I played on Temple of Anubis, and I played on the payload map, which is called... I keep forgetting the name. Let's go back quickly and look. Like, I know I should know the map. It's actually in my press kit over here. I've got the press kit. Don't even worry. It's called King's Row. That's the one that's set in London. Like the futuristic version of London. Big Ben is there and everything. It's kind of cool. It looks really, really nice. And I played those two. I somehow didn't get the map called Hanamura, I think. I think it was. Was it Hanamura? Let's have a look. I just closed the press kit again. But I somehow didn't get that. I don't know why. I just got unlucky, I suppose. It was just random. And I guess if I did play more, if I spent more time at the PCs, it is called Hanamura, then I would have gotten that. That's also just a point controlling one. So I got to play both the styles. And I enjoyed them. Okay, it worked, and I did speak to the devs, and this was asked multiple times. There will be more modes. Okay, there will definitely be more. And on that note, there's also going to be more heroes added, because you got the offensive, the defensive, the tanks, and the supports. And currently, there aren't that many tanks. And people were asking, you know, what's up with that? Can we have more tanks? And they were like, yes, of course you can have more tanks. Just wait a little bit. Now, another thing with the game is that the HUD, the UI that they give you, it's really nice. It's big-ish, but it's not too big. And the way they display the information to you just works. It's pretty great. You know, it's incredibly user-friendly. And that's something that not a lot of games do well. Some games just give you way too little. Some games give you just the right amount. That's Overwatch. Okay, it definitely gives you the right amount. I like the way that they had the little gauge that shows when your ulti is ready. And I like the fact that they gave you an ulti. You know, it's as if they took the MOBA style of skills and just tossed it into a first-person shooter, which most people would tell you wouldn't make sense. Won't work. But it did. They made it work. It's great. They also gave the heroes unique and their own health pools, which was kind of weird because that's not always what you expect. I mean, some shooters you don't even see a health pool, you just get hit once, twice, or 3 times and then die. So it was different, and I'd say a little refreshing actually, to have a health pool, have it being higher on the tanky heroes and lower on the others. So the heroes I played, most of them, I had a better time with some of them than some of the others. And I'm going to talk now about the heroes a little bit. There's not that much to say about the maps. The maps, I must tell you right now, they're very vertical. They have a little bit more detail to them in both how they look and how they are laid out than maps that most people are used to in games like Team Fortress or Counter-Strike or whatever. And that's good because you can find little nooks and crannies to hide in, to gank your opponents from. You can go up above. You know, some of the heroes have abilities that can propel them up, that can shoot them up into the sky, that they can climb walls or whatever. I'll talk about that, don't even worry, because those were some of my favorite heroes. And they can take advantage of these things. Some heroes have slightly more defensive abilities, like Bastion turned into his little turret self. Then he can just set up in a little corner and take advantage of that. And that also came into play a whole lot. So in terms of maps, you have to always be thinking, and that's one thing I realized, because a lot of people, they played Bastion and they set themselves up in little corners. So you have to be thinking, how can I use this map to my advantage? And they did that. But then you can obviously just counter that by picking a hero that can do well against that specific setup. So the maps were fun. Really fun. The art style on them, great. So cool. So varied. So vibrant. So colorful. Blizzard did good with it. The person that designed the maps did great as well. There's usually always another way around. So, for instance, on Temple of Anubis, you have to protect the zones that the other team wants to try and take control of. So there are like two different avenues coming in from the ground level. Then you can come across the top as well, and then maybe there's one little tunnel from the side. So you can't just focus all your attention on one area in that map. Like just before the last room, okay, and this is one experience that I had in one of my last games. It was madness. It was one of the closest games we played. We had about 10-15 seconds left on the clock. Then we had all of us defend in this one last room. There's this big door that's like a archway basically that leads out into a big courtyard. Most of the enemy team was just blasting away us from that side. We thought, okay, we've got them. We're holding them back. We got our big Reinhard at the front with his big shield blocking everything. We had a Mercy behind healing. We had this. But then the enemy Tracer, and this is now because we didn't know the maps that well, we didn't just think of it at the time. One of the enemy Tracers came around a little tunnel and went under a bridge below us. Blink, 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 blink. Made its way to the final room and then just hid out there, and we didn't even know what. Oh, it was infuriating but amazing at the same time having something like this happen. Another example of this was on the payload map. We had the best setup for attacking, like the best possible setup, where we did the, I can't remember the name that they gave it, but where we set a Bastion up on top of the payload wagon, and we were just pushing, and then eventually and this was in one of our first games, eventually we got to the final room. Okay, we just needed to get the payload like a couple meters further and we would have won, but we just could not break their defense. And then the devs, they were there watching us. I saw the guy, like out of the corner of my eye, come to one of our members and he like whispered something in his ear. Just whispered him something. And I was like thinking, whoa, okay, what's going on here? And then, not even, let's say 20 seconds later, their whole defense just crumbles. Just evaporates. Because he was given this really integral, this really important tip to try and break through the two Bastions, the Reinhard, the Mercy, and I think they had a Widowmaker at the back. It seemed like the perfect setup. The perfect setup. But you know what changed all of that? A Winston. It was magnificent. Okay, it was magnificent. So one of our teammates switched to a Winston, and he leapt in between the two Bastions that they had, and he just destroyed them. He popped up a shield. It was so good to watch. I don't even know how, but it works in such a way that it really helps to be able to know a couple of different heroes and to be able to understand that certain heroes are not always the best for certain situations in the game. It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun that you can actually counter pick things, and I suppose in competitive play they're going to have a restriction on that, because there will be competitive play, believe you me. But now, you know, I've rambled on for too long about that. Let me move on to talking a little bit about the heroes. So there are a lot of them. There are 12 of them currently available. At least we've been told about 12 of them. And those are Tracer, Reaper, Widowmaker, Winston, Pharah, Reinhardt, Symmetra, Torbjorn, Bastion, Hanzo, Mercy, and Zenyatta. I played a lot of Tracer. It's just my kind of hero. She's so fast. It's such a fluid style of play. The ability that she has that reverses time is just a lot of fun as well. It's kind of like the Dota hero's ability that sort of puts you back 3 seconds as well. Same kind of thing. And it works really nicely in a first-person shooter. I didn't think it would, but it does. And I just enjoyed her. She was super fun. The little grenade that she throws decimates the opponent. Second favorite, or at least on par, I'd say there are 3. For me, there are 3 at the moment that are my favorites. These are the 3 that I see myself playing a lot when the game comes out. Widowmaker. I loved sniping. Okay? It's so much fun. The abilities that she has are so cool. And, you know, what's kind of weird is that I don't think she's an offensive hero. No, she's a defensive hero. And it's cool that they acknowledge that snipers are not meant to be the attack and strike force of the heroes. They are much more defensive. They are good. They excel at zone control, and it's nice that Blizzard recognized that. So her abilities are Widow's Kiss, Grappling Hook, Venom Mine, and Infrasight. Infrasight's great because it allows you to see through walls, and I enjoyed that so much. So for a shortish period, a brief period of time, you can see through walls. You can plan your shots so perfectly. Okay, you can plan them so perfectly. And this also applies to your allies. So whenever you use that, everyone can see everyone through the map. Well, all your friends can see all the enemies through the map. And I had a lot of fun with that. And the grappling hook, just getting up into nice positions, activating it, and then just taking them out with your sniper rifle. And the sniper rifle works in the same way as the Team Fortress one, where you can actually do more damage with the slightly more powered up attacks. And I really enjoyed the style of play. But then on the flip side, a totally different style of play. Pharah, she's Quake, okay? It's kind of crazy. She's got this jetpack that you can use, and she not only, but her main weapon is a rocket launcher. So the rocket launcher, they made it feel a lot like Quake 3's rocket launcher, and it felt good from the first second that I started using it. Really good. And you have a lot of fun when you're able to bounce yourself into the air and then just like rain death on your enemies. Just you start pounding away with the rockets. You just start shooting. Oftentimes, they don't expect that. And I did that so much on Temple of Anubis. Was one of my favorite maps to do that on, because there are so many up areas in that map that you always you find a little spot and you think to yourself, this is it. And you bounce up. Then you go up above a entrance that they're watching. Then they're all watching the door and they're watching. When's she gonna come through there? But no, she's coming from above. She's coming from above. You just shoot down there. She's got a concussive blast attack that also helps out a whole lot because it disables shields and barriers. So this was our big pick to take out, and this we only figured out after a while, because obviously you jump in there, you're not paying too much attention to the abilities and what they do, so at first you don't quite know what all of them are good at. But after we found out that it took down shields, we used Pharah a lot more in our teams, because there were a lot of Reinhards, there were a lot of Bastions, and those shields from them are just crazy powerful if they're not dealt with. So Pharah does that, and her ultimate was a barrage, like a rocket barrage thing. I loved it. Okay, it was so good for me. So those 3 heroes were my favorites, by far. I played a little bit on all the others, and I enjoyed them. Hanzo was quite fun as well, because you get to ricochet the arrows, and that was something that I also think, you know, could be combined with something like Widowmaker's ulti, so you can see through walls, and you can make the arrow bounce like around a corner and hit someone, because that's totally possible. It also helps you get behind the shields and stuff. Then I played like a little bit of that, not a lot. I played a bit, not a ton, of Reaper, Winston, and Mercy. And then I played less of all the others. Torbjorn, not so much. And I think I said I didn't play Reinhardt and Zenyatta at all. Bastion I tried to stay away from because, you know, a lot of people were playing Bastion. It was the most popular of the heroes, I'd say. He's a cool hero. really cool, and the way it plays is really fun as well. But I would quite honestly say that it's not my style. It's just not my style. There was also the famous 4 Bastion or 5 Bastion strat that Jesse Cox and Crendor and their team cooked up. It was kind of cool seeing that. They all just went Bastions, they all set up in different positions, then whenever anyone came into the room, they just got annihilated by the Bastion fire. It was kind of cool. I really enjoyed it. But overall, my time playing the game was just so much fun. I definitely see myself playing this when it comes out and spending a lot of time in it, focusing on it a lot. I'm definitely going to be making videos of it. You know, I want to actually get good at Overwatch because it's something that I think I see myself playing in the future. Just because of how good it feels. I mean, the mouse movement, the player movement, the way your character moves around the world is really cool. One thing I did realize though is that the characters that don't have movement abilities, and most of them do, but some of them feel a little sluggish and a little slow, but those ones generally tend to be the more defensive roles, and they can afford to be more sluggish and slow. That's one thing I felt when playing the game, and I generally tend to gravitate towards the faster moving heroes, or something like the sniper that doesn't need to be close. But that's one thing that I realized while playing a lot, is that I prefer the quicker moving heroes, and you do move a little slowly with some of them, but the maps aren't so big that it matters all that much. Like, it's okay moving kind of slowly, because you also have abilities on heroes like Symmetra, like the teleportation ability, that can get your team from the spawn all the way to the thick of it really quickly. It's also worth considering. But, you know, I can tell you right now that one of the best first-person shooters that I played, and it's still so early in development. I'm going to be playing it a lot more in the future. I absolutely can't wait for the beta to start up. I mean, it's going to be so much fun playing this. And I'm quite sure that because of what Blizzard have done with their latency control, or at least the netcode on things like World of Warcraft and Heroes of the Storm, I'm pretty sure it'll work internationally as well. Like, I'll be able to play from South Africa on international servers quite easily. Shouldn't even be a problem. I think it'll be okay. But that's about it. You know, I had a blast playing Overwatch, and I played a whole lot of it, and I just wish I could have played even more. Okay, if I had much more time, I would have spent, well, at the actual event, I would have spent all of it playing Overwatch. Maybe some Hearthstone as well, which I'm going to talk about soon, but I would have spent a lot more time playing Overwatch. And this is something that I am truly excited for, because, man, Blizzard are going to have a full repertoire of all the different type of games that you'd ever want to play. It's going to be great. It's going to be so good. Now, if you guys have any questions about the gameplay, about how it was to play the game, about any aspect of it, I'd love to hear it. I mean, there are a few things that I can say. It's just that hit you the second you start playing. The art style is so striking. The maps are beautiful. There are so many little details that you must look out for. Even when you watch the gameplay videos of it, look out for those little details, because they are the things that make the game stand out and make it so much better than any others of the type. Little things like that. The gameplay feels smooth, solid. You know, you don't expect a game so early in production to be so solid. You can kill people really quickly. Sometimes when they use the right abilities in the right order, you can't. You know, but then you can always see quite clearly and distinctively why it's not working. There's this big blue barrier. My bullets aren't hitting him. I think I know what's happening here. You know, those things, they hit you immediately. The game feels good. The game feels good. I enjoyed it. But there you go, I'm done. I'm done talking about Overwatch for now. I'm going to talk about it a lot more, don't even worry. Okay? But I played Overwatch at BlizzCon 2014, and I wish that my time playing it had never ended. But I'm done. Check back here soon for more. Give it a like, share it, and do all that other good stuff. Most importantly, though, happy Overwatch and Overwatch at BlizzCon 2014. Happy that.